The following video explores the artistic, musical, and performance aspects of K-pop star Park Jimin from BTS through the queer lens. This interpretation is one of many and is not intended to definitively capture Jimin's artistic intentions. Like any work of art, the perceptions of Jimin's work are subjective and vary widely. Jimin's music likely holds multifaceted meanings, encompassing various themes and emotions. It is crucial to emphasize that this interpretation does not aim to disclose personal details about Jimin's life, but offers a unique perspective significant to many in the queer community, providing validation and comfort. Just like in the other songs of Face, Like Crazy can be seen through different layers depending on the listener's perspective. The lyrics, the music video, as well as the dance performance and other things involved in this song are loaded with symbolism and meanings that finds its roots in the Jungian psychology framework. Like Crazy is a masterpiece of art that needs special emphasis in all its aspects. At first glance, the song can be seen as Jimin having a good night out partying, forgetting all his sorrows and how he will probably regret this in the morning. This is the surface layer of the song that casual listeners will understand and those who don't take the context of the album into account. Recalling the lines introducing the album helps understanding Jimin's intentions in this framework a lot better. Reflection of vulnerable minds and unexposed wounds. Face, the reflection of myself in an unfamiliar appearance. The face of facing the deepest part of inner self. Since we established the perspective of Jimin talking with himself and about himself in this album, let's look at the title track Like Crazy within this context while also unpacking our queer lens. Just like the title of the interlude, Dive, Jimin continues to dive into his inner depth of his personal unconscious self in this song. Let's begin.
I think we could last forever. I'm afraid that everything will disappear. Just trust me.
The dialogue in the beginning of the song is serving as a metaphor for an internal conflict between Jimin himself and his anima. According to Jung, the anima represents the unconscious feminine part within men that is hidden deep inside their shadows and acts as a bridge to the unconscious mind, enabling him to connect with his feelings, creativity, and intuition. Our shadows remain a part of us and are essential to our wholeness, despite being shunned to appease society. Jimin's anima is urging for acceptance and exploration of his true self and encourages him to embark on a transformative journey. The anima's guidance symbolizes Jimin's deeper suppressed self, urging him to trust and follow her towards self-acceptance and authenticity, despite the fear and societal pressures that cloud the path. From the perspective of someone struggling with their gender identity, Jimin's approach of using male and female genders as his inner voices can also be interpreted as a dialogue between his own female and male gender identities, which makes this whole analogy even more genius.
She's saying, baby, come and follow me. There's not a bad thing here tonight. Save your reasons up for later. Stay with me a little while.
Starting with Jimin's inner dialogue, the setting in the music video establishes Jimin's inner world, while we zoom in slowly into his eye, and then zooming out again on the outer world, Jimin's real world. The anima invites him to follow her, to explore the depths of his unconscious self without fear. This reflects Jimin's inner voice urging him to embrace his true identity and desires, setting aside rationalizations and societal judgments temporarily. In the first formation of the choreography, we can see male and female dancers surrounding Jimin, with the women closest to Jimin representing his anima and his inner femininity that he conceals from the outer world, who look like they try to seduce him, while the males represent his persona that is accepted in the society, but who are further away and enveloping his true self. In the music video, Jimin is seen sitting at the table of his real world. When the anima tells him to save his concerns for later, the room suddenly turns full of murky mud and dirt, heavily implying the bad stigma thrown upon himself by societal norms that sticks to his guilty conscience, which lies in the form of his shadow within the depths of himself.
Watch me go, now I sink down all alone. Away, where am I? A dark cage clouding on my eyes.
suddenly a soiled hand, most likely belonging to his anima, dirted with his shadow, grabs onto him and drags him with it into his subconsciousness. The color's a thermal image, implying he is on his inner side now. The setting takes us back to the very beginning of the song, when the inside of Jimin's unconsciousness was briefly established. The location reminds one of the inside of a disco or club, where people are having fun dancing and drinking. Disco has a huge connection to gay culture, standing for liberation and acceptance, as queer people can open up and be themselves without having to fear social oppressions. As Jimin descends further in his subconsciousness that he neglected for so long, it feels unfamiliar at first to let loose. The dark haze is the shadowy turmoil within himself, symbolizing the masked parts of his soul that he buried deep inside himself in order to fit in. In the first segment of the dance performance, he is dancing with the males only, who still have control over Jimin, always being in the back of his consciousness, but Jimin wants to get free of them. The female dancers come to the rescue and pull him free from the societal norms that lay heavy on him. Finally, he can begin his journey exploring his inner femininity. He is disoriented at first, overwhelmed by the new side of himself the outside world disapproves of, but slowly comes to terms with his repressed femininity, soon dancing in sync with them.
I can hear the voices listening, don't know who they are. I'm trying to take the pressure off, been reaching for the stars. And tell me, will I find myself again when I go too far again? I know, you know, I know.
I can hear the voices listening, don't know who they are, could represent societal expectations scrutinizing him and his internalized norms. The struggle to relieve pressure and the aspiration to reach for the stars reflect the desire to ignore those voices and find self-fulfillment and acceptance. Jimin is walking through the constant blur, unfocused as he seems to be searching for something. It appears as if he is still trying to let go of his persona, the people around him pointing cameras and watching him and reminding him about his societal norms and constraints. On Jimin's quest of finding himself again, he drinks alcohol to loosen up, which signifies his struggle to reclaim his authentic identity amidst his external and internal chaos. When I go too far, Jimin is afraid of going too far, getting lost in his inner urges and ignoring his persona and societal expectations. Both him and his anima know it's too late to stop now. You know, I know, as he just wants to let go, to numb the pain of the intense emotional struggle of the inner and outer judgment, and so he finally decides he'd rather be lost in the lights as he continues his journey to face his true identity.
I'd rather be lost in the lights, lost in the lights. I'm out of my mind.
We can see Jimin in a narrow corridor, walking determinately through a crowd of people as the only one in the opposite direction, could symbolize how his inner self is something the society is opposed to, while the phrase "out of my mind" could refer to how queer people are seen in a homophobic society, as crazy. He is like crazy, out of his mind.
Can you let me numb the pain? Each night you spin me up high, emotions on ice. Let me have a taste and give me a good ride.
Emotions on ice indicates a temporary reprieve from the intense feelings of societal constraints and the fear of judgment and self-doubt. He asks to have a taste, a reference of taking a bite of the forbidden fruit of the Garden of Eden, which he already made in his song Lie, to succumb to the immoral pleasures of the innermost self, getting drunk on the feeling and having fun. The plea of having a good ride echoes the desire for acceptance and pleasure, both in terms of self-discovery and potentially in exploring one's sexuality. Having a good ride could suggest him taking on the receptive role in homosexual sexual activities in that context, highlighting the sinful aspect of his self-fulfilling journey. Muddy waterfalls can be seen cascading down the walls. There on the floor, having amassed a significant amount of grime. The shadows that Jimin tried to desperately hide as they aren't welcomed in the society are spreading and consuming his surroundings, which are showing his sin-tainted descending. In this part of the dance performance, male and female dancers are closely linked, almost seamlessly interwoven. This beautifully symbolizes Jimin's acceptance of both his feminine and masculine energies, dancing in unison and embracing all facets of himself. The pulsing movement of the dancers around Jimin resembles breathing, He has become one with his identities and breathes together with them, free from the judgment imposed by society. Yet, Jimin is still experimenting and has yet to fully confront his anima, his inner feminine self. The man carrying him could signify his reliance on his outer masculinity to keep him grounded, but it might also represent his embrace of his sexual orientation. A heat map is used again to show kissing and dancing couples, among them 2 women dancing, while holding each other, highlighting the intention of sexual desires between all genders. The male and female kissing can also be seen as his male and female gender identity finding balance and alignment. The repetitive chant of, "I'm falling," gives a trance-like impression of having been fully absorbed into his inner self. "Oh, it's gonna be a good night. Forever, you and I." The beat of the music adds to Jimin's seductive chants as it changes into a meditative beat, as lasers are scanning up and down his whole body, seemingly transforming him. At last, she is finally appearing amidst the crowd, mirroring Jimin's every step until they are finally facing each other. His long-suppressed anima and female gender identity that had been calling for his attention for so long. After the cut, Jimin is facing himself in a mirror inside a bathroom, which confirms the assumption of the woman appearing from the crowd being his female inner self. The subject of gender identity as his inner struggle further solidifies with the introduction of the bathroom, previously hinted at with the "we see" signs. Initially, the scene shows cubicles typically used by females, and as Jimin turns away, urinals come into view. This transition indicates that only Jimin is aware of his concealed gender identity. While staring into the mirror, he can hardly recognize the unfamiliar appearance in his reflection that was always hidden underneath his persona. Now an earring and silver eyeliner on one side are gracing his new appearance. He uses these features associated with femininity to express his transformation. Jimin feels ecstatic and so alive. He just wants to waste time in this state and stay. In the dance performance, the meaning is even more direct as he comes face to face with his true self. Their movement is mirrored, his reflection, his feminine self, is portrayed by a female dancer. However, only him can see his real reflection, while she is stuck in the mirror, so as soon as he turns his back to her, she vanishes.
I'd rather be lost in the lights, lost in the lights. I'm out of my mind. Can you help me numb the pain?
The scene showing the bathroom symbolizes rigid societal gender norms, traditionally divided into male and female. However, as the bathroom walls fall away, these norms no longer apply to Jimin in this state, and he literally becomes genderless. Special attention has to be given to Jimin's trousers in this scene as it provides meaningful context. Embroidered on them are photos showing a man, who is none other than American photographer Robert Mapplethorpe, world renowned of sexually charged photographs of the New York gay male underground. Robert Mapplethorpe's exploration of sexuality, gender, and identity in his photography not only pushed the boundaries of artistic expression but also played a significant role in the cultural and political debates of his time. In the early days of the gay liberation movement, any public declaration of homosexuality was a political act. South Korea is currently at the brink of undergoing similar social transformations, mirroring the cultural liberalism that swept through the Western world in the 1960s and 70s, challenging the traditionally conservative norms and values still prevalent in the country. Mapplethorpe developed a pictorial vocabulary that reflected the complexity of homoerotic desire without reinstating existing stereotypes or visual tropes. In some self-portraits, he dons costumes or makeup, playing with gender and identity. This body of work underscores the fluidity of identity and challenges the viewer to consider the complexities of the self. Jimin is in front of a huge LED display showing a couple kissing, again shown as a heat map, embodying the new synergy and unity between his male and female gender identities. He remembers that this will probably break him, expressing his fear of what this transformation is going to do with him under societal judgments. Not being accepted by social norms in a conservative, homophobic society will literally break him and his whole being. But he doesn't want to think about it now, denying reality. He wants to stay in this dream. He doesn't want to be saved from his inevitable doom. "I need a way we can dream on," he cries out in desperation for acceptance of his true identity. There must be a solution to live authentically without breaking apart from the scrutiny of the harsh reality. Unfortunately, every dream comes to an end. So does this one, as the bathroom walls zoom in on him again, bringing back societal gender norms as he gets dragged out of his dream. The muddy shadow keeps sticking to him like guilt as he is waking up from his dream. Alone again, realization hits when he discovers his anima is gone. With it, his true identity locked deep inside of him. As he is back in reality, he is giving up on his dream of his true authentic self. Traces of his shadows sticking onto his muddy hand, soiling his reality.
Alone again. What's the point?